Hey, hello everybody. I'm here with James today. James Brockhurst. His channel name is now the Energy Flow Tribe. Hello, James.
That's right. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, we were talking. Oh, carry on.
It's a beautiful day. So Claire, she made a video when she went out dog walking this morning. She's 5 months pregnant, so I think she's suffering a bit with the morning sickness.
We'll stick the video in now. So I'm just gonna 1 second.
Yeah.
Hey beautiful souls, it's Mrs. Energy Flow here. Hope you're all having a beautiful day. It's early in the morning, but the sun is shining here in Scotland, so it makes everybody very happy. So I'm looking forward to when I emerge from the woods, seeing everybody's happy smiley faces and just feeling that loving vibration wash throughout the day. Now, what makes you feel good? What gives you that, what gives you that feeling of, I'm happy, I'm bright, I'm alive. Sometimes for me it's just touching a tree. Like the minute I touched that tree there, I could feel a spark of energy just go through my hand. Thank you so much. Like I love trees, I love healing nature. And this is what fills up my love bucket. This is how I feel good. So even though I'm 5 months pregnant, I get quite bad morning sickness, this is what cures it. This right here. This tree. Those trees. Walking. Listening. So if you're struggling with anything right now, anything at all, then find some nature and go outside and just walk and listen, and I bet you feel better. And if you don't, then reach out to us, that's what we're here for. We're here so you can talk to us and you can let us know what's going on and we can try and help. Lots of love, lots of peace, lots of happiness. Happy Wednesday.
James.
Yeah, so I met Stephen and Claire. It's one of those things where you put out a wish into the cosmos. It's like I want to meet some people on the same wavelength locally, and it was a magical moment. It was like instant soul recognition within about 2 weeks. And I said, well, look, I've got a channel. I said, just upload videos as and when you want to it. So I said, there's already audience then.
Right,
let's all going well.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so, I mean, Claire does healing, she does Reiki, Stephen does yoga, he's the energy flow guy, and they're superb people, they really are.
And they're having a baby.
It's formation of there's more, some of them don't want to be on video, but it's sort of growing all the time. Start of the early stages of a local community, really.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
I had a hangout last week, James, with Alex, music conspiracy guru, and he's got the same thing going on for him, where they're friends, but that someone will bring round whatever it is, jam, bread, and then they pass off bits. You know, he's got loads of vegetables.
Fantastic. That's the way to do it. That's the way forward, really.
And DN, who's in the chat room, my chat room, I don't know if he comes over to your channel, but he says that he has masses of vegetables left at the end of the week and he gives them away.
Masses of what, sorry?
He said each week I get about 48 lettuces and I give them away extra than what he needs.
Nice, very nice.
It is, isn't it?
That's the way to do it. Surplus of things and give them away. It seems to work. I found I went out and fed the birds, no expectations, came back and there'd been a delivery from the food bank. So I thought, well, that was a good thing.
Anyway, we've come together today a bit, although we'll probably digress and talk about loads of other things as well. But we were talking last week on Started, explaining that we all come from inside a computer. And I said, let's just have a hangout about this, because obviously it's all a simulation.
Yeah.
So carry on, James.
Okay. Well, if you think about in this reality, say for example a new car or a new phone, you'll get that product before it goes into production is tested, put through various scenarios and simulations. I think there's channels where people have deep fried mobile phones and then let you know if they're still working afterwards, and that sort of thing. So it's basically like a diagnostic. So if you think about another word for creation is production, or to procreate. Now the production line is the timeline. So effectively, the way I see this realm is like a diagnostic
centre. This is the diagnostic centre.
Sorry?
This is like a diagnostic centre.
Yeah, it's a, well, if you think of it as, if you have another realm, say with real Earth, and this is like the carbon copy, the diagnostic zone, you're not going to experience or be able to experience the duality, the contrast, everything from excellent to just awful, without sort of going through the experience. So I feel that this is just like a diagnostic zone. If I bring sort of etymology into it, so we break the word down. So you've got die, well, you've got two meanings for that. You can have like a die for casting shapes and things, die as in death. Then you've got agnostic. So you could say you're dying to many gods, as the vet would say, test the spirits and see which gods they serve. And then obviously you've got Gnostic and Gnosis all contained, and diagram is all contained there. We definitely seem to have a blueprint to everything. So it also changes the perception on it, because it's a playnet where we're supposed to have fun, but unfortunately it's got a rogue virus in the program, as it were. But it does change the perception. It's like, well, actually in a huge, great video game, and this is actually quite a lot of fun.
I don't know if I agree with you quite there, but carry on, James.
It's like
the way that your friend wants to make things, the one with the video we've just played. That's where we want to go.
Yeah.
Carry on. You like the game. Carry on. Tell us then.
Well, there's talk of things like gatekeepers, where we're all our own gatekeeper. It's sort of finding it within yourself. Funny enough, it came to me this morning. I wrote out a poem. Find it. Yeah. Would you like me to read it?
Go for it, James.
So you're getting a prelude. This just came, and I'm basically, you could say I'm just like the medium that physically writes it onto the paper, so it just flows as it comes. So the title came last. It's called The Ghost and the Essence. Attention, apprehension, let it go. Allow the spiritual energies to flow. Surely by now it must be clear the solution is far from near. The lunacy with thought sounds absurd, for there seems to be no sign of flattening the curve. It is all just eat, more akin to flattening the herd. We're expanded, not consciousness, but waistline, in a synthetic corporate world, all by design. Earth is a realm, a playnet to play, not to exhaust yourself working away. For when does it dawn, that day, when it is from your true essence that you work away? The external world, a giant stage set to test out all potential, lest we forget. A factory line of production set in time, a contrast of excellent, good, bad, and crime. The S10 program that runs like a timepiece, a realm to experience, contrast, balance, with much external and physical to deceive. Temporary material pleasures and great cost, things that do not last, just eat into time of leisure, and in that your time lost. If all material becomes now immaterial, do you prefer that ghost or eternal essence most? And that's the poem.
Wow. Very good, James. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah,
well, poems are about realising the past, aren't they? They're always from the past. Not very often they're. Well, I suppose you can make them for the future, but most poems are from something from the past.
Not necessarily. I mean, a lot of the stuff is historical, so we're sort of looking back at it. What was the inspiration for that painting or that piece of poetry, that piece of music? I go with the idea of what is called the art spirit that sort of permeates through everything, because there is an art to everything. There's an art to cooking, to presenting food on a plate. It's all the feeling you put into it. I mean, the greatest contrast, if you've got something that's factory produced and exactly the same, like a sandwich or something from a supermarket, and one that's made with love, that's homemade, that's had some effort and some thought put into it. You're putting a bit of energy into that food by sort of creating it rather than buying off the shelf.
Well, I don't like that chat we had when you said that they take blood from us, and if somebody does something horrible to it, it's going to affect you even though it's not with you anymore.
Yeah, well, we're basically magnetic. I mean, we're in a world where, on one hand, we're taught that if it's not physical and if you can't see it, it's not tangible, it's not real. But my answer to that would be, well, what about Wi-Fi signals then? Because without the equipment to detect it or being on the right frequency, there's loads of things that whiz through the air that you can't detect. So it doesn't mean it's not real, it's just it's an anomaly that science can't explain.
1 second, James.
Yeah, that video in our plane, I sort of never walked.
There's a nice ray of sunlight in front of you.
I just sort of went for a walk, not really sure where I'm going. I ended up doing a massive circle coming out where I didn't expect to, but close to where I wanted to get to anyway.
It's really weird how it starts off, those corpuscular rays, so big at the sun, and by the time it's hit the ground, it's just a little ray. In your video, then, just saw a ray coming down. But anyway, you're on the path now, James, with all the lovely trees.
Oh yeah, heading towards the river, I think. Remember on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this came about. I think the big break was a channel was Santos Bonacci's channel, a guy called Jason, with Archaic's channel. I left a comment to his last video. I said, really, you should ask yourself, because he spent, I think, 16 years in prison, and he got access to all the prison library in the United States. So he made copious notes from all these old books. And he sort of proves we live in a simulation, because take the year 1902. It's a huge change, but it's a marker. So we've got a palindrome. So you go a certain number of years either side of 1902, and you've got repeat events. So you've got an assassination of a US president 61 years before and 61 years afterwards. You've got the unification of Germany in 1871, and there's another one, obviously, in 1933. So you start seeing basically what Nostradamus did, where it's dropping a pebble into the water, and seeing the ripples either side, you've got mirror images of things. So we've had World War I, but they gave us the Spanish flu beforehand this time round, instead of afterwards. You sort of see that, you can see the patterns of these things. He's done a superb breakdown, but my sort of introduction came from another channel called Simplicity Revealed, a lady called Julia, she's from Texas and now lives in Portugal. And she gives a lovely 9-minute sort of breakdown of Archaic's channel and this 138 years cycle we're in. Because we're in the Annus Mundi and the year is 5916. When we get to 5934, it's only 18 years away that we've got the Phoenix event where things are reset. Just like on a phone, you've got restore factory settings. So this diagnostic round does get reset. Now, that doesn't mean it's all going to be fireballs and doom and gloom. It's going to depend on what frequency you're on. Now, last year, there was something about an earthquake in this area, and I thought, well, I can't feel it. And I spoke about this on the video, and one of the comments on the video was somebody on the east coast of the United States, and the lady said she lives in an area which is the size of 2 football fields. Now, some people felt earthquake tremors there, and other people didn't. Now, there's 2 sort of factors in this. One is the people who didn't feel it are working in garden centres and working in nature, or they have a positive outlook on life. The ones that did feel the earthquakes, shall we say, they've been coerced by certain medical practices. So they're in the fear realm, so they're on a different frequency. So this Phoenix Rising event will be nothing to fear as long as you don't feed the fear, because fear feeds fear. And what was it, Adrian Elise, she does the Gaia Daily about the astrology. She came up with a superb way of describing it. Life lives life. So you want to feel alive and think in the energy terms about live wires. And you'll get through this with nothing to fear. I mean, maybe some of the listeners will say, well, I'm 70 or 80, I'm not going to see the next 18 years. Well, you'll get a different avatar to be in. You're not the body. That's just like jumping into a car and then thinking you're the car. The physical body is part of this realm in which our true essence comes into, and then you get this thing, the little I ego attached to it that's chasing the material world.
But then you've got with the kind of buildings we've got. I was looking at some of those old red brick buildings yesterday, and I was just thinking, there's no way we could have earthquakes. These things would fall. They would fall.
Well, I always find it amusing with the old buildings, the care and the attention to detail, and putting all these intricate things high up that we can't really see. Now, this is, again, Archaic's channel answers this, and I can back this up because this is something I can remember somewhere in a different body, in a not as solid as now, when there were no seasons on Earth.
We almost, like with what we've had lately, we've almost had, okay, it is warmer now and it is nicer. It says 24 degrees on my computer. But in winter, we never got below 0.
No.
I mean, you might have done up in Scotland, but here we didn't. We're quite a mild winter, and, you know, like you think, well, it's supposed to be spring or summer now, and it's like autumn or winter. You know, it just doesn't really change. It's like we're in the same season, or the season ends up being months long.
Well, the saying here is you can have all 4 seasons in one day, and it's actually true. We had monsoon rains, then sunshine.
Well, the other day it was really hot, and then when the sun went, it got really, like, we lost 15 degrees, like, in an hour. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, that is quite a big jump.
I saw it the other day because I was out with Mickey, and I said, wow, it's 28 degrees Saturday. And then when we got home, it dropped, like, to 14 or something.
Wow.
In an hour. And you could tell it was chilly.
Yes. It does change a lot.
And then sometimes, James, do you know what? I'm sorry, I'm digressing a little bit because we're on your walk and you're talking about things, but it's just happened. But yeah, you're sitting here and they go, oh, it's 19 degrees, but it feels like 30. feels so much hotter than your computer's telling you. And then I said to Ellie, was it really hot? Because she went to Miami about 3 or 4 weeks ago, or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then I said, was it really hot there? She said, well, it was like this, but they said it was hotter. Because it was really warm then.
Hmm.
You just never know whether you're being told the truth, because sometimes, and then it's maybe the microwave thing or something, so it feels a lot hotter because of something else that's happening. It's like you're being slowly microwaved.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, go back to what you were talking about. I just mentioned that. I've just changed the subject. Carry on, James.
Yeah, so what Jason is talking about was at one time the Earth, where we've got daylight and you can clearly see the sun or a sun, it was almost like a purple night sky, very tropical and humid. There were no seasons, and you see the moonlight. I mean, if you think about the way it describes it in Genesis, talks about God created this, did this, and the evening and the day was the first day, so it implies that the day is starting in the evening, which would make sense if things were flipped over, as it were, so your daytime becomes your nighttime. And everything, this has been done within an experiment in a tank, and everything grew far greater, not from because it wasn't direct sunlight. And again, if you think about the way Rudolf Steiner talks about it, and you can sort of see it for yourself, if you plant a seed, you're planting it in, actually, or its initial growth and everything starts off in darkness, same with a fetus as well. It's not out in the light, it's going in the darkness, and even nature does this.
So that's all the other way around as well then, James.
It's like, where does the year start? Well, you get a lot of things, they start growth, although it's unseen, in sort of January and February. There's stirrings in nature, and it's only when it sort of breaks the surface.
And you know what? No matter what anybody says about how they think this place works, and they say the sun is circling and all that's a load of rubbish. I've had Mickey here now for obviously a few months. You've been to my house. The sun never ever circles round my house.
Yeah.
It does a triangle thing. Comes in over there, goes down to this point, and then it does a triangle. And, the Big Dipper, there's just so many things that are nothing like they say it is.
Well, again, Jason on Archaic says the sky is a lie, and I suggested a long time ago that it's an upward projection, say from Mount Meru, maybe a magnetic projection. I
know this might sound crazy to some people, but when we originally were a research group, we had someone doing the toroidal field around us, and then Matt Jerome was doing the land to the sky, Ceres was doing the land, and FPV Angel was doing under the ground. Now, in FPV Angel's stuff that he liked talking about, everything came out of the ground, and Stan Smith got there as well with his photography and showing us that no matter how he did it, if he put these goggles on, which were virtual reality, they came out of the ground and went into the ground. And to be honest, when you watch any of silly old NASA, they show you exactly the same. It's always coming out of the ground. It's like being in a cyclorama.
Yeah.
Because that's what I realised on this footage with Hitler. As he was walking, and because I slowed it down a bit, because I'm trying to beat everything, you could see it was the cyclorama he was in. So the sky is like that probably then. And that doesn't, even though the thing it's in is round, it's not round, it's just projecting something. But it's something maybe like that.
Yeah, it seems to be a projection. And I think that's why it's carbon life. It's a carbon copy.
Is that why you can go above them, James? The moon and the stars, you can go above them.
Well, I'd say they probably are a projection. Because
me and Mickey have talked about it quite a lot. We said when we were small, we both noticed that the moon was all the way up there. Not because you were a kid. It just looked a little thing up there. And sometimes when I've watched the moon come up here, I've almost like, I can't produce it on my phone. It just won't do it. I need I don't know what I need, a P900 or something. I want to go, oh my God, look at it. It's so big that but I think there's a gate just past my house. That Enoch thing is correct. I've seen the moon appear
Sometimes,
here. I've seen it do so many weird things here, and sometimes it's just absolutely enormous. But then when it gets to its zenith, it's quite small. There's a gate here.
there are times where twice because it's like, what's that? It doesn't even look like the moon. It's sort of, that's too big and shouldn't be that low to the ground. But oh yeah, and then.
But nobody says anything, James. Nobody seems to notice.
Well, there seems to be a cut-off, this sort of getting back to normal. I mean, people seem to have forgotten sort of before the last 2 years that some of it is the constant bombardment of different theatre shows being presented through the media, but some of the big headline news, like the when they slaughtered all the animals for the cloven foot animals for the whatever flow it was, I can't even remember now. But you had all these big events that people just seem to have completely forgotten about, and you sort of mention it and they give you a blank look.
I think it's because, or just one thing, it's not presented to the media make it for us. It's all made for us. But
yeah.
I think what it is there's so many horrible titles. You even told me one about, say 15, 20 years ago, it was mad cow's disease, and you're finding people that cannot remember it.
Yeah, that's the one I was trying to think of, funny enough, the mad cow's disease, yeah. I mean, that was big headline news at one time.
But even like we all of us were around when Mandela died, forgot about it,
yeah.
And then he was president again.
Yeah, some of the things superficially look a bit trivial, like did Coca-Cola have a hyphen between the two words? It's like, well, so what? Companies change their logos. That's an easy one to explain. But then some of the things that, personally, the one that I can clearly remember, and there is a point where you start actually questioning your own memories. It's like, it was the film Back to the Future. Now, I remember it being one of those Mazda E2200 vans that's got quite a massive sort of ungainly looking bumper sort of built into the bodywork front and back. It sort of, to me, it spoils the look of the vehicle. But I've seen Back to the Future since, and now it's changed to a blue and cream Volkswagen camper, and it's like, it doesn't seem, it's seamless. It doesn't seem to be like they've just superimposed one van over the top, but I can't explain how it's been done. It's almost like a timeline jump of an alternative reality, and I do wonder, the last 2 years, where some of us, because of the frequency we're on, we've jumped into
James, do you know that bit you're just talking about? When we started doing videos years ago, and we were doing the Victorian one, and I said to you that I could see somebody like they're extra in the footage.
Yeah.
I've made a video about that. Now that's in that timeline. It just looks like somebody's filming through a piece of glass. But how could they be when they're outside and they're doing people walking down streets and that? I don't know how they do it, but you can see this man in the footage. Extra. He bends down. He bends up. He was bent down and then he bends back up. And I've made a video about it, and I've seen that repeatedly. I just think all of those films were made for us.
Well, it does seem to be that it's an unpleasant thing.
And also something like this, James. Well, our national shoe was not clogs, was it?
Sorry?
In the 1900s, our national shoes were not clogs, were they?
National shoes?
Like children. I've watched this video. It says it's Lancaster. All the children were given clogs. So like all the school children were given clogs. Like when did that happen? That was not our national shoe at all. Clogs.
Well, that's something I'd read be associated with Holland.
Yes, Oh, but no, now it's our national shoe.
I've never heard of that.
I made a video about it.
I've never heard of that.
Do you see what I mean? Like, people say my granddaughter's age might come across this video when she's a little bit older and believe that children in England wore cloaks.
Could well do, yeah.
I'm not saying that some didn't, but it wasn't our national shoe. No. Well, not what they've been showing us.
No, I don't ever remember that being...
See what I mean? I can see these things myself.
Yeah.
But it's like someone's making it all up for us all the time. Like, it's, you know, like, I suppose hopefully people, I mean, obviously you have your opinion and I have my opinion. Quite often we're very similar in our opinions, but usually people know it's an opinion of mine. It doesn't mean it's history.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're showing some truths, but it doesn't mean it's actually history. But these come across like this is what's happening. And then what it was is, I put this video out where I was just gobsmacked, James, because they were showing these people had gone on holiday just before the Second World War, and they'd gone through all these towns in Europe, and the buildings were just to die for. It. I said, if this is real, I have tears in my eyes. But then when I looked at them, it had the same problem that we were finding when we were doing the videos. Everybody was changing all the time. Like, even Mickey saw this man go from his 30s to his 80s in a couple of seconds. You know, whatever they were doing in that film, they were doing in other films and the ones that we saw when we're watching it all. And it's like, no health and safety, everything's chugging along, everybody's moving in front of everybody, but there's no health and safety. There's no, like, that's the road and that's the pavement.
Well, we had common sense back then.
No, because it's all been made for us. All
but
of
I do wonder, I seriously wonder about this. It's like all these topics.
You know what? On this video, on the Hitler one, the guy starts talking. Basically, the moment they could put screens up, that was it. They were mind controlling you.
Could well be. It does seem to be, there's that saying, seek and ye shall find. Well, that seems to have a double meaning, because everything in this material realm seems to be based on something spiritual. So if you're talking about the creator as being source, you've also got an internet source that is trickling things out. So it's, suddenly these things have come up. Say like the whole thing about mud buildings. I think many of us have sort of probably had this sort of thought before, that's a bit weird, putting windows below street level or only the top part of it. And you don't really think any more of it. But then it's, when you start looking at this thing, you just seem to find more and more of it. And it's like, hang on a minute, I'm going down a rabbit.
Yes, listen, James. Me and Mickey were looking at Star Forts. Everything was quite regimented. Then I had a hangout with our melted reality, and he was showing Fort Pick, and it was different. The legs were all pointing different ways. Then me and Mickey started finding many Star Forts over here the same.
Yeah,
we couldn't find the other regimented ones. We could only find the ones that we'd looked with our melted reality with.
Well, again, I think this comes down to, shall we say, the magnetics we put out and what we're drawing. So wherever we've got attention to, this sort of realm seems to respond and give you more of it. It sort of seems to work like the subconscious, doesn't know the difference.
But it can't keep changing it, can it? Or is it like Groundhog Day, really? Is it more like Groundhog Day and we don't realise?
Well, the difficult part of it is, you have to do like a little thought exercise on this. If I've got a rectangular box and I'm some distance away and I'm showing it to you, from one perspective, the top and bottom, which are going to be less distance than the sides, will seem the biggest. So from that perspective, it is a fact, but there's three other perspectives that are going to have, that are also going to be facts, but which one is the true one? They're just different perspectives of the same object. It's the same as a still life painting, or if you think about a tree, from one side you may have more branches going out to the left, but if you went 180 degrees around the other side of the tree, they'd be on the right, but it's still a fact. And it does seem, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. If you think of every one of us, our eyes are like we're looking onto a screen. So we're projecting out onto this screen. So
oh, you mean to say it's a bit like the Adjustment Bureau when these other people go, no, what, tomorrow she's not going to turn left at the end of the road, she's going to turn right, and we're going to make sure she does it.
Could well be, yeah.
That's the Adjustment Bureau. Everybody has to watch that.
Well, if you think about it, you've got a version
but
of
the
that.
only thing is that I've just done a video where Johnny Depp looks like Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio is Matt Dillon, or Matt Damon, whatever his name is. So that's all a bit bananas, but the film was quite good.
Yeah.
They just make doors and things. It just can happen when you're wearing one of their hats. And they decide what's going to happen in your life. Oh, hang on a minute, James. Hang on, James. The video just finished. Right, we're back on now with James.
So that's another thing. I mean, you think about it. As the channel was called, it was James Brockhurst Channel. Now, most people hear that in one way. They're thinking YouTube channel. But just like a painter works with a medium called brushes and oils and a canvas, in turn, I'm just a channel for information to communicate. It's what I call the art spirit. Because I can see it with certain artists. There's a recent video I've done that features paintings by Sarah Hicks. And if you just pause on any of these paintings, you can start to pick up the feeling that artist has communicated in that painting, and they actually start to unfold with like a spiritual story that doesn't equate into words, shall we say, or doesn't fit neatly into the five senses. I mean, this is where words fall down as well, because you're trying to describe the undescribable you're trying to describe 9 dimensions in 3. It's difficult to do. So it's all wheels within wheels. I mean, biblically, it's our Father who art in heaven. Well, art is the guide for humanity that has been commentating and documenting everything. And I seriously recommend listening to The Art Spirit by an artist called Robert Henry. He was an American. I think he's 1865 to I think 1929. And his paintings have definitely got it. But the book he wrote called The Art Spirit, it's more than just about painting. If you listen to it from a spiritual or an esoteric sense, that really comes through what he's saying. It's like, wow, this is like talking to the soul. And it does open up a brand new world within this world. I would agree totally again with Jason and Archaics that you've got 2 realities going on. You've got a micro, which is your own, within a stage set. So, I mean, if you think of it like a long-running soap, you're one of the actors that comes into that drama. The drama's already happened. That actor doesn't know or can't know about episode 1. You just pick up a storyline for that character in a long-running show. And that's basically what this realm seems to be. It's an uncomfortable feeling to start with, to think, oh, we're playing a character, but this, like, source, another way of describing it is higher self. It seems to be the part of us that isn't in this physical body that's guiding, and there's a slight disruption with the communication.
Yeah, that's because it's inside, James.
Sorry?
That's because it's inside you, not outside you.
Yeah. Yeah, the higher self probably is not even higher at all. It's not higher in the sense as in looking up towards the sky at all. Or gut feeling. It's intuition and instinct that kick in. I mean, if you think about it, a human baby is pretty useless compared to, say, a horse that's just born. It knows instinctively it's got to stand up straight away. It doesn't need someone guiding it and putting reins on it and giving it walkers. It just does it if it wants to survive. Whereas humans go through a much longer process, and yet we're supposed to be more intelligent than the animals.
Yeah, as myself, I'm kind of running out of words. You learn so much stuff in these, it's one great big spider web with 1 million spider webs in it, and we've probably been through a few hundred. And there's just, so many dead ends, and you get a bit more information so you understand a bit more, and then there's another dead end. And
yeah, funny you should say that.
Except, I've been thinking about, like the Tsar of Russia going, they murdered him,
yeah.
supposed to be a revolution. That probably shows you something. But the Roman Empire thing this thing was still gaining more land up until the Second World War. And then it crashed. And then we got Baddie Hitler, which is a video I've just put out. He was another story.
I was just thinking when you said dead ends straight away, because I noticed it, especially with the warmer weather, I molt quite a lot, so there's a lot of hair comes out. Obviously, they've got dead ends, and then you get split ends and things. So it's like we're going along the wrong line on the hair. We're going to the outside.
The thing you have to do, I think, James, above everything, is know who you are as a person. And then the rest comes. When you know who you are, you make different decisions than if you don't know who you are and don't know what you want. And then when you just relax a bit, it comes.
Yeah. I've had people sort of looking, they're sort of like astonished when I say, why aren't you worried? Whatever the scenario is. And they cannot get their head round that I'm not concerned about where's food coming from tomorrow or the next day or whatever. It's like, well, as things stand at the moment, it's not there. If I feed into the fear, I'm feeding the fear. And it's like this phone. It's the second phone. It's taken 6 days. I mean, I've already got the experience. I know what it feels like to hold a phone. I know what it feels like when you've got a phone that starts playing up because it's got old or the battery is coming to the end of its life. It gets frustrating. So I'm then feeding into a negative energy, but I can change the polarity. I can do a pole shift to that, and it's like I've got no phone in my hand, but I can imagine and I can remember the future. What would it feel like? How would I feel inside about having a new phone? And it's like 6 days later, it's become a material, solid, physical reality. So it's another proof. I said to...
I know, but sometimes, James, it's not always easy to be, like, almost dead calm. I mean, that's what makes us humans, is that we have up feelings and down feelings. But I know exactly what you're saying. Like women, not saying all women, but a lot more women are more emotional than men. We deal with it emotionally, whereas men are more rational, generally, and deal with things more rationally.
Yeah. We've also got the star signs. I mean, water signs, male or female, are going to be, water goes with the emotion. So anybody who's a water sign, it will tend to be more emotionally driven, whereas an earth sign will be more, I suppose, practical, more down to earth, as it were. And it's said somebody who's a fire sign has got a quicker temper, that sort of thing. But I've basically, what's happened to me is a bit like a mobile phone where you've got the restore factory reset. I've lost loads of memory. But I look at that as wiping the slate clean. With Jason on our BITCHUTE Channel, I left a comment saying, think back, somewhere in your life you must have asked yourself, what am I I doing here? What is my purpose? Well, beautifully, when you look at it from this perspective, he went into prison for, I think, 16 years or 26 years. That allowed him to shut out the outside world and start looking at all these old books and making copious notes and putting things together and with a calculator and seeing how things mirror throughout history. And then I said to him, I said, from my perspective, you're like a modern day Thoth. You've got the knowledge, you've looked into so many different things, and he's got a solid foundation, a fountain of knowledge there now. And how beautiful is that? Although you can see it from a negative side of he's been locked up, he wasn't locked up. It was like a, shall we say, a sabbatical. It gave him a wonderful opportunity to actually be able to do this, where had he not been in prison and worrying about paying rent or paying a mortgage or a family or whatever, he wouldn't have had the time to do all that. So that's absolutely beautiful. And it's like with, I've got not exactly memory, I've got memories of feelings. So sometimes it's like, I can feel anger welling up inside. It's like, no, I've acknowledged the feeling. It's not that they're not there or they're bad, they're banished. They're still inside, but they're under control. They're not going to be allowed to come out as a volcano. The joyous ones, yeah, let those ones release. But at the same time, anger and frustration, you can give that to earth to take away and go up barefoot and go in the woods and give it to nature to dissolve and come out feeling better about things afterwards. Well, that's by far the best thing if you get the chance. Get out in nature, go for a walk amongst the trees or something, or on the beach and listen to that rhythmic sound of the tide coming in and then going out. And then think about, that's no different from the way we breathe. We breathe in, we breathe out. If there wasn't a point where you stop breathing in, you just go bang. And likewise, if you couldn't breathe, you wouldn't last long. And then when you take that, the next stage, if you go too high, the air gets thin. That can be a disaster if you go too deep in the water and the pressure gets too great. So we're staying in that balance in the middle all the time. And it does change things. It gets rid of all the old stresses for a start. It's wonderful. I'm really pleased the way life's gone. From a materialist perspective, they would say, "Oh, you're a social failure." Well, I don't want material things. My dream is not chasing after the latest car or the latest phone or anything like that. As long as I've got something that works, I get what I sort of need most, and I'm definitely being looked after, whether it be higher self or whatever. So I've got no complaints about this reality at all.
We're at the beach now with you, James.
Yeah, that was a magical day back in April. It was like a summer's day. It's sort of totally out of the blue, because the end of that week was 4 weeks. It seemed unbelievable on that day that there would be snow coming in 4 or 5 days, but it did. That's why the saying in this part of the world is you get 4 seasons in one day, and it's true. Or certainly in 1 week.
Wow, it looks quite nice there. You could pretend it's tropical. We can see the grasses and the sandy beach.
I think that's the Isle of Arran it's looking across to. It's right on the west coast. I can't even remember the name of the place now.
Oh, well, the Isle of Arran. Oh.
Yeah.
For a minute. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Scotland then in the distance?
Well, it's in Scotland. It's looking across, I suppose that'd be the Irish Sea to the Isle of Arran.
Oh, I see. In Ireland. Oh, wow. It's that close. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's got some magical spots, but unfortunately it doesn't. When it gets good weather, it gets good weather. But it does get a lot of rainfall as well. But last winter wasn't too bad, as far as I remember.
Not for anybody around here. I heard like Americans saying it was colder and other places saying it was colder, and we had quite a mild one.
Well, depends what part of the states they're from, really, I suppose. If there's
Hey
someone like
James, you
Chicago,
remind me of Robert Forsh now on the beach, and we're in North Carolina.
it's in a beautiful area, isn't it?
It could almost be the same, except obviously it's about 20 degrees colder.
Isn't Robert in Florida?
No, he's North Carolina, I think. Yeah, South Carolina. Oh my God, I can't remember which one he is, but he's one of them.
Yeah. I'm not terribly familiar
Myrtle
with some of the
Beach.
states.
He's near Myrtle Beach. Yeah. Well, it looks very nice anyway, James. It's always good to see the sun on the sea right in front of you.
Yeah. I seem to remember I said something like, yes, this is Scotland, and yes, they do have sand.
Amazing, yeah.
Well, you look at a lot of the Callan things, they show you the sort of highlands and the...
James, I just thought about something. So that stuff you were saying before, so we're making our own reality then?
To some degree, yes.
I see a big cliff and I see kicking them off. Why isn't that happening? I want that reality.
Say that again.
I see a big cliff and we kick them all off. That's if we could find them.
Because that's putting out a negative thing, and then you're saying you want, so it's projecting it into the future.
No, I want the end. I want the end of them.
Well, that's happening anyway. They know it as well. That what they're doing is projecting outwards their own inner turmoil. I feel
maybe that's why everything is so bad at the moment, because they know they've got to control even more, I suppose, because we're waking up.
Well, I feel a lot of when you get a disgraced MP that's plastered all over the news, I don't think that's for the public benefit. That's to keep the rest of them in line. It's like if you break the rules of
well, they don't take any notice of the rules, James. Otherwise, we wouldn't find hospitals with biohazard and people's files still there. It would be empty rooms for a start. Let alone the sadness that the places are empty. But you wouldn't be finding bits of bodies, whatever. They don't take any notice of the laws themselves.
I'm talking about the sort of like the politician level.
Right.
They all seem to
be
expendable. They seem to be sort of held in place by fear. So if they do cross a line and speak out about anything, they seem to get publicly disgraced. There always seems to be dirt on them somewhere as well. That all suddenly, take that Alex Salmond. It's like, what are the chances of? I don't know how
he's
many
part of
women
the story. When they belittle you in public, they crucify you, they humiliate you. That person has just gone up the ladder a bit. They have to do it. They have to humiliate you. It means that you're further up the structure now because they've been publicly humiliated.
But that structure's starting to collapse. This is the thing. It's the very sort of feel of the urgency to the way things have been put out in the last few years says to me that the time for this current era is running out. It's unsustainable. Most people seem to be paying with cards for things, and when's that going to reach?
I did think about that myself the other day, James. If we're everybody, because well, 1 second, we're going to change the video because we're coming to the end of this one. Hang on.
I do and don't recognise what I see in the mirror. That sounds a bit weird, I know. I feel more aware of I'm within this physical being than actually being the physical being. It's either that or I'm in a dream that I can't wake up from, and I've had some very good plastic surgery.
Yes. I can't remember what we were talking about now. It's so annoying. But we're not stopping ourselves growing older, are we, James? We are getting older.
Yeah, time seems to be like film frames that are very slowed down. But if you think about, if you're asleep and the telephone rings, how in that split second, within that dream, that telephone ringing sound will be incorporated into the dream and will stretch back into this imaginary past until you come back into a sort of conscious waking state and realise it's a telephone ring. So in the mind, the whole concept of time just vanishes. I'm trying to think, it might have been Ben on BITCHUTE Channel. He's done a very good video called Computer World Part 1, which I'd recommend everybody watches as well. It backs up what our KX channel says.
I think the light is coming earlier as well, James, in the morning.
Well, it will this time of year.
No, I mean earlier. I've been watching it for years. I know what time it comes up. Many a night I've been struggling on here with a video at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, I just think it's a bit earlier. It's like we're going backwards, to be honest.
Certainly by about 4 in the morning it seems to be light.
No, it's about, well, last weekend with 2 weeks to go, it was definitely 3:30. So it's going to be just after 3. And the last bit of light don't go till 11. So we've only got 4 hours of night. It's dark, but there's still a bit of blue in the sky.
Well, when I went to Sweden, that was just after that was in July. I think it was the second and third week of July. And night time was really about half an hour. By 1 o'clock in the morning, it was like a summer's day. It was daylight. The only thing that was missing was people. It was quite bizarre.
I've seen a midnight sun in Denmark. That was a bit bizarre because, as you now know what it is, it was like a novelty. Like me and my daughter were just for 2 or 3 days. We were just standing at the door looking at it.
It's amazing, isn't it, when it's like middle of the night and it's daylight and you've got the sun out
like that.
There was no daylight.
It's lovely,
It
looked like a moon. But the fact that was the sun coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's suddenly, over the last 2 or 3 months, the sun seems to have definitely got a lot higher.
Yes, it's very hot. That's why we're having such nice weather, because it's so high.
Yeah. It was much lower in the sky, so of course the sunlight came.
Yeah, the higher it goes. And do you know what I've noticed? About the last month and a half, I go to my bathroom and then it hovers in my back garden at about 1 o'clock for hours when it's like middle of the summer. Well, it's already been doing that for a couple of months. And this is this nicer weather that we've been having.
Yeah.
I mean, it says 25 degrees today. It is actually quite a nice day. Little bit humid, but you can feel it's warm today.
Well, the sun, I think, is a very good sort of...
It's very bright, though, James, the sun. It's almost like, I don't want it on me. It's too bright.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy. If you think like in an art studio, and it's the perspective. Well, the sun doesn't stand still in one place; it keeps going round and round. So
triangle. It doesn't go round and
well,
round. It's a triangle thing.
In religion, they're talking about emulate the sun, be like the sun. Well, yeah, it's just keep the thoughts fluid. I mean, when you say triangle in the mind, you can constantly change the angles of those 3 points on that triangle. You can't physically draw the triangle, you can only draw a triangle. So anything that comes into this material realm in a solid form can only take one form at a time. And you can try it with anything. If I say draw the horse, you can draw a horse, but then there's all the variations. You can't draw the horse, but in the mind you can. you can picture in your mind. You can have that horse changing colour.
Sorry, somebody's
on a
messaging
dapple.
on my phone. Sorry. Carry on.
You say in the mind, you can do it in an instant. You can change the colour of that horse from a dapple to a black horse or a brown horse.
Yeah, that's
And you
probably
can
how
have
they
it-
changed our history.
But when you try and put it on paper, it's only going to take one form. As soon as anything comes from the spiritual into the physical, it can only take a one solid form.
Yes.
So with the sort of weaving away through this web reality, whatever it is, it's I think the fluidity of thoughts is the answer. Just sort of weave your way through it. And certainly, if you push against the system, it will push back and a lot harder.
Well, you've got to sort of remember it like everything I need, I always have. Money, things. When I need it, it will be here.
Definitely. When you go back to it and start thinking, oh, it hasn't come yet, there's doubt creeping in. So that's another one to watch, because who knows the time scale of any of these things? I'd go as far as to say it's 6 days for a phone in my particular case, but some things are really instant. It's incredible. And it's all going with putting a thought out of the future I want to create, and then it seems to just come. And it's bizarre the way it comes as well. I mean, last week I went into town, and I thought I'd really like a sort of tailor-made cigarette, as it were. And I'd come all the way back, and this hadn't happened. So when I got back, I thought, oh, I need milk and tobacco, so down to the local shop. When I'm in the shop, somebody I know said, would you like a cigarette? So I got the cigarette. And that was the most unexpected, unlikely chance of that happening.
But it did.
Yeah, but trying to predict how and when or anything.
Yeah, you're not allowed to know these things. Otherwise, with all the gifts we've got, we'd be able to make money on them. But we can't. And it doesn't work for us usually. It works for other people.
To be honest, I don't want to know how it works. The fact that it works is good enough for me.
That's good, James. You got your fag.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, I just fancied instead of a hand-rolled tobacco, I fancied a cigarette for exchange. And I even got that. I mean, that's beautiful when you see how this reality works like that. So I must be doing something right.
Yes, James. Well, we've been going for an hour and 5 minutes. Do you think you explain? Because obviously we were coming together because you were inside a computer, basically, a simulation.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly seems that way. And then when you see in other channels that are basically in different words but saying exactly the same thing, it's like, But I'm not going to fix to any one thing either. I'll stay with the fluidity of thought, the flow of it, and if I can have a sort of an understanding of different perspectives on a thing, then
yeah, because
it sort of
sometimes
enriches.
you change your mind just a little bit, don't you, when you realise something?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you've got a particular thing and it's based on the information you've got at that time, but then another bit of information will come in that changes it. Unless you're in the scientific community, that's an anomaly, and you don't change the theory.
Yes.
They always dismiss things as anomalies if they don't fit their theory, rather than getting the theory to fit the facts. But why try and pull it apart? It's like if I got a pocket watch and I take all the cogs out, am I going to even be able to put it back together in the right order?
Yeah, sometimes, we like to break everything down, don't we, and break it down, but sometimes you just got to trust and not break every single, just the things that aren't right. Break them down.
As they start talking about things you can't even see with the naked eye, and then there's something even smaller than that, and it's like, well, I've got no way of verifying that independently anyway. But I'd rather have something that works and not know how it works and appreciate it than try and pull it apart and then mess it up. And I feel that's also part of this reality, what do we say, the controllers? I think they're the diagnostic.
Well, you just made me believe that we're in the what's the name, Bureau film? The name now, Adjustment Bureau film. Oh, go and watch that one.
Yeah, I've not seen it myself.
You should watch it, James.
Well, hopefully now I've got another phone, because that was half the trouble. The other phone, I think it was the card reader was playing up, so it wasn't getting the signal half the time, and it became.
They don't make phones to last, do they? Anyway.
Well, no, because they want to keep you buying another one all the time, and so I think they design these things to work, but they also design them to fail on purpose. Because they don't want you to have an everlasting phone. They want you to go back for another one. They need, it's all repeats. They want you to keep coming back for more. They certainly seem to run that in the health industry.
Yeah.
Same as a lot of these. You hear people talking, I can't wait to see the next episode of, because it's been left on what they call a cliffhanger ending. So it's to entice you to then watch the next one and take more of it.
If we were talking to Claudio right now, he'd say just put good thoughts in your brain. Don't belittle or anything anybody else, because it'll happen to you. And so we just have to learn, grow, wake up and move on.
Definitely. I mean, coming to the realisation it's thought, word and deed, well, I've got to be really careful how I think, because how I think is possibly going to manifest in this realm.
If you're not careful, I could say, well, you wouldn't believe me anyway, but I hate you, James. But if you believed me, that sets off another step of things, and then you could then say, well, I don't like you, and then we're arguing, and then that needn't have happened.
Yeah, then that's put out a negative force in the field, as it were.
Yeah, so you've got to say positive.
Oh yeah, well, it's weighing things up. Because some things that may appear positive aren't always positive. Like the shortcut routes of pay a pound and you could win all this money or whatever. They're not actual. That's not going to find you true wealth. That's going to find you a temporary reprieve. But when it's gone, everything in this realm is finite. Whatever form it is, even some of the oldest structures over a long enough period of time, they would collapse. Nothing sort of lasts forever, does it? Realm, it's all subject to time, and part of time is a sequence of decay. But that's been spun as something to be feared, but that's something that's also inevitable, that the physical body will get to a certain point where it won't know where we've looked after it, of course. But that realisation that isn't my true essence, that's just something I'm here to go through and experience, and that changes the way I feel about things for a start. I mean, one of the classic ones would be to, like with a psychiatrist, do you hear voices? It's like my reply would be to that, well, when you read a book, what voice is it that's actually you're hearing in your head? Is it your own? And then it becomes a very hard thing to try and even to describe or put in words. Or even as an experiment, just take one word and repeat it over and over again, and it gets to a point where it just loses all meaning and becomes a sort of nonsense. it sort of meaning dissolves, so you're just left with this word sound.
Anyway, James, we're coming to the end now.
Okay.
Unless you want to talk a bit more.
No, I've got, what's it about No,
That's
definitely need
cool.
another
We've been
coffee.
going an hour and 10 minutes. That's quite a nice time. That's a good time to stop.
Yeah. It gives an 11 number, doesn't it?
So we are not in. So what does that mean if we're in a computer? There's nothing we can do till we leave here.
Well, yeah, I think it's a. Well, I think I'd see it as a diagnostic realm. So it's all about testing out the stage set that you're in, finding that pathway through it all, but being careful not to put out a negative energy. But at the same time, I think you've got to be mindful of if you put out a really positive energy, is there going to be an equal and opposite? Because we're in a realm of duality as well. So we'll be really careful and to really consciously aware of our own thoughts, our actions, our words, and the interaction with other people. But like driving, we've got to be aware of every other road, pedestrians and potential dogs that might run out between parked cars. All these things. It's sort of, this realm is all about keeping you busy and not allowing you to have time to sort of slow down and think. And that's as much a part of it. It's like, hold on a minute, I need to stand back from myself and observe myself as much. You're being an observer of yourself, best way to put it. So you're sort of moving in your mind to you're sort of the controller of the character, of the avatar.
There's 3 yous as well, James. There's who you want to be, who you think you are, and who other people see you as.
Yeah. Well, the answer to that is I am, and then anybody else can add whatever they want to put behind it. So I am, and then you can add your best friend, your worst enemy, your worst nightmare, or anything in between. But it also seems to be very much like what's his name, Ken, the Apotheosis Channel.
Ken Wheeler.
You've got the radio signal and you've got the radio. So if you're tuned into the right signal, to the right broadcast, you'll start operating or vibrating on the same frequency of others that are on the same broadcast. But you've also got to have the contrast, so you're going to find a lot that aren't.
So a bit like a radio, we can change our own frequency.
Yeah. Well, this is where the meditation comes in, because I mean, if you think about it, when you sleep, the physical body is doing its, well, it seems to be running on an autopilot. There's no conscious awareness of the heart or the liver or kidneys and all the functions of all the organs. They just do. But the one you can communicate with is breathing, which then has a direct effect on the other organs, because you're taking more oxygen or less oxygen. If you're in the fight or flight mode, then the adrenaline is going to be off the scales, because it wants you to give you a burst of energy from an instinct side of things of escaping a potential danger. So it's bringing that inner calm and stillness. And then that allows things to change inside yourself. You're sort of communicating with yourself, and then a whole different world actually unfolds, and it's a far better one.
Yes, James.
Yeah. But the thing is, if I can't say sit here all day and I'm looking for external gratification or something to get my attention, then why can't I sit with myself and turn myself inward, as it were, and reflect on things? And I can. I mean, if I was put in a prison cell, those walls would disappear. There wouldn't be walls. There would physically be walls, but I can deny the physical reality, and I can go inward and just sit there and meditate, and rather than reacting negatively and let me out of here, let me out of here. You're not going to be there. You're bolted in, and the system's got you.
But anyway,
It's like you go
we'll
into
come
a
back
court.
and have a hangout soon, though, because it always moves on, doesn't it, James?
Yeah, yeah. It's like you go in a courtroom and start arguing with them where you're already caught because there's only one door in which is guarded by a policeman, so it's a bit pointless kicking off in a courtroom. Far better to go in and treat it like you're an invited guest. Okay, some people, they're in there because they have done serious wrong, and yeah, they do deserve to be punished because they may have caused unnecessary trauma. Like one of them the other week, it was over a bottle of vodka or all things. But what about the poor staff who then probably feel stressed and upset? They didn't have a thought about them, so they got 4 months for that. Not somebody I know, something I witnessed.
Yes, that's lots. Anyway, James.
It's a total game.
It is a total game, and it's always changing. But anyway, James, it's been really great talking with you.
And you.
Glad you got a new phone.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, it's been a bit frustrating for you lately, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, even like a 3-minute song, it plays about 2 minutes and it kept stopping, and it's like, So I thought, it's got to the point, I thought, no. I thought, what am I doing? There's no point in getting angry with the phone. And yeah, so problem solved.
Yeah, well done.
Well, easy one.
Well, we'll come back soon and have another chat, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and thank you for coming and talking about the fact we're in a computer system.
Thank you for inviting me, but I will say, if I could just say to you, we do check out Archaix channel. It's ARCHAIX.
Okay then, thank you, James. You've plugged him.
Yeah.
And
or better still, before even going to that channel, look for Simplicity Revealed, and there's a 9-minute video giving an overview of Archaix channel, rather than going into sort of the heavy stuff first of all. It'll give you an overall view of it. And
do you think we could play a couple of minutes right now just to show people?
Which one?
Archaix.
Well, I'd ask him first, really.
Oh, we won't then. We'll just leave it the way it is. It's cool. Anyway, James has plugged him nicely, so go over to his channel.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that will benefit people. Because this is half the thing, when you don't understand something and it can seem frightening, bewildering, but then when you've got a new perspective on it, you think, yeah, now I see, and then all that stress and fear of it disappears straight away.
Well, hopefully people are listening, James.
Yeah. Well, those that are meant to, they will.
Yeah, anyway, people like you coming over to the channel and stuff, and thank you very much for your mind, James.
Despite all the algorithm, the whatever system, it still gets through.
Well, I mean, even you and me, over the years, have looked at quite a few different things, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. It's been some time now.
Yeah. Thank you, James.
It's fascinating.
I will be calling you back very soon.
Okay.
And what do you want to say?
Well, basically, just reiterate what I've said about check out those other channels. Try this sort of remembering the future for yourself and take control of your reality. You're still going to operate within that external realm, so you won't walk in two worlds at once. But it does make things a lot easier to get through.
Yes, don't fight it. You're a nice, normal human being, unlike the rest.
go with the energy flow of things, and just trust in yourself that you're going to be okay, and you will be.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much for that. Don't go just now. We'll say goodbye afterwards. But for the hangout, James, chat room. Thank you so much for that chat, James.
Thank you.